Hi, I'm Scott Max and welcome to the third video in our free Masters in Digital Marketing. In this video, we're going to cover the best online businesses to start in my opinion, and together we're going to define the business that we'll work towards together with your Masters project website. Okay, here's a quick overview of what we're about to cover. We're going to go through 6 beginner-friendly business models that are totally legit and that you can start today. And regardless of your skill set or how new you are to this, they will be good choices to start with. And then we're going to look at 5 non-beginner friendly business models that are totally legit as well and are something you can work towards as you gain more skill, experience, and capital. And then we're going to look at 4 business models to avoid, especially to help you protect yourself and to help dispel some false beliefs there are about online business and what it is to earn money online. And at the end of this video, I'll explain the number 1 business model I would recommend to start with. It was my personal favorite, and I will explain exactly why I believe it is the best business model to start right now. Now, why are we talking about this now at this point in the course? You've just gotten your domain and hosting, but you're not sure which website exactly to build. Most likely, if you followed my recommendations, you will now have a personal brand domain, so yourname.com or some sort of variation of your name, and we'll build a personal brand website. This is an excellent starting point for your online business journey, as it will provide the foundation for anything you do in the future, which is what I'll explain a little bit later in this video. Now, we've seen tons of different examples of successful online businesses. I understand all of the online business models out there, and I will help you understand the overall picture of how money is made online, what the advantages and disadvantages are of each model, and what is realistic to learn as a beginner and what you can execute on immediately from day one. Plus, I also mentioned some more advanced business models which are very, very powerful, but require a little bit more experience and especially some money to get started. So therefore, we'll cover them, but we won't recommend them further into the course. And at the end of this video, we will conclude with why I recommend a personal brand website, plus some sort of service offering, plus some sort of affiliate marketing. Now, before I go into it, this is the most important slide, I think, in this video. The most important detail with any business, regardless of what business it is, what business model it is, what niche it is, etc., is that any business model can work. There's precedent for anything, but things take time. Skills take time to learn and to master. Brands take time to build. Marketing takes time to execute on. Sales takes time to learn and also to execute. Outreach also takes time. Fulfillment takes a lot of time actually to set up. Reviews take time to collect and build. Systems, processes, etc. All this stuff takes time. A lot of people make the huge mistake of trying something maybe for 1 month or 3 months and then giving up because it doesn't work. But the reality is things take time to learn and to master. So right now we're focusing on learning. At the end of this course, you're going to know the basics of digital marketing, and then you'll have a little bit of a foundation so you can choose the direction which to go. But here's my very important message to you to find success in the long run. Once you start, do not give up on something and do not chase shiny objects. Stick with what your initial choices are. Now, in the beginning, it is totally fine to experiment around a little bit. But once you find something that works, or some idea or some direction that you're a little bit passionate about, or you find some resonance in, you enjoy what you're doing, stick with that thing. Do not chase shiny objects or other ideas as long as this idea makes some sort of sense and follows the broad rules that I'm going to cover in this video. If there is some sort of proof that this business model works, so you see competitors out there doing something similar and having success with it, then you're on the right path. The tricky thing is sticking to that path, doing the basics, mastering your skills in that particular area, and then building the brands, the marketing, the sales, the reviews, etc. The biggest mistake I see is that someone gives up after 3 to 6 months and then tries another sexy business model or another sexy business idea or another niche. This is the key mistake that I also make myself, where I just simply do not stick to something long enough for it to come to fruition. I've become much better at it with experience. You will possibly also make the same mistake, and you will look back on your life 5 years after making this mistake and think, okay, I shouldn't have done that. So trust me, take this course, learn your fundamentals, never stop learning. Find all sorts of resources out there in the internet. You've got my newsletter, you've got other courses. Learn about stuff, but stick to your main thing and do not chase shiny objects and pivot every 3 months and give up on certain opportunities because there's something else that's attractive. This is the key. So firstly, let's go on to 6 beginner-friendly business models, something that is particularly good for you to start right now. All of these business models are online business friendly, and these are 6 directions you can take your current business idea and that are beginner friendly, very simple to execute, and do not require any money whatsoever. So the first one, and one of my personal favorites, is affiliate marketing with free traffic. So you should know what affiliate marketing is already, but basically it's you send traffic or you send customers to online stores or online vendors that pay you for some sort of action. It could be they pay you a commission for a lead. They could be paying you a commission for an e-commerce sale. They could be paying you a commission for a new customer. doesn't matter. You send a vendor traffic online and then they give you a commission based on the action that traffic does. Now, the beautiful thing about free traffic is that it is free. You do not need capital for this. It just relies on your content and your ability to get an audience. This is one of the best business models to start with because you can immediately make money without having to deal with the complexities of running a full circle business. All you have to do is focus on getting traffic and customers and sending them to an existing business which already has fulfillment, trust, reviews, etc. A lot of the time they have already very good marketing materials which you can reuse. This is a fantastic way to earn a little bit of money in the start and practice your skills as a business owner. Now, the real magic with affiliate marketing with free traffic is building your own audience as you promote other products. So for example, you could become an expert in a particular topic, say fishing, and you could create content about fishing, becoming the person of trust in fishing. And while you do that, you recommend certain fishing products, fishing rods, fishing boats, etc. You make commissions on those fishing products while you gain an audience for yourself, which you can keep reusing in the future. This is a core part of the business model I'll recommend at the end of this video. Now, as for traffic sources, you can use anything that is free. So whether it is social media, whether it is long-form video, whether it is blogging and using SEO, all of the marketing methods we teach later in the course could be valuable. And this could be a very good idea for any business. Next up, we've got freelancing and services. Simply, this would be selling your labor or someone else's labor to provide a service or to solve a problem. This also includes getting a job. So getting a job, you could argue, is nothing more than you're a one-person business and you have one client. This is kind of the same. One goal with our personal brand website or the project we're building now is to prove your expertise in a particular area so that you have an easier time either getting clients to freelance for or build an agency which you can have other people service your clients, or you can use it to prove your skills and get a job, which, as I said, is like having a freelancing business but for one client. Now you could take one of our more advanced courses on how to consult, how to freelance, and how to sell your services, or you could use platforms like Fiverr or freelancer.com or Upwork to get your clients there, or whatever expertise you build with a website that you will create for yourself. You could become an expert authority in that particular topic and then get clients that way. We'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. Now, one last thing on freelancing and services. This is the best way to make money quickly. There's nothing like you solving a valuable problem for someone with a skill that you uniquely have and then someone just paying you for your time. If you're in need of money, this is what I would definitely focus on, because that way you can get to a very respectable income doing something very legit for someone. And with the skills that I'll teach you in this course, it is not that difficult to become an expert in a niche topic and to get customers online and to very quickly build a small freelancing portfolio of 4 to 5 clients, or if that's not for you, getting a job in a niche that you like. Now, next up, we've got display and direct ads. Now, display ads are simply programmatic ads, the ads you see all over the internet, and they usually go through a network. They don't pay that well and only are really relevant if you have a lot of traffic. So if you can figure out how to get a lot of views on YouTube, for example, or a lot of website visitors, this can be a lucrative business model. However, it is the lowest rung of business model and it's the least amount of money you'll make for that traffic. It's very legit and it's a very quick way to make a few $100 extra if you are able to get traffic to your website. But usually this is like a background noise type business model. Now, slightly better than display ads are direct ads. So if you have a very niche audience, especially for example in newsletters or YouTube content, you will be able to sell direct ads with companies. So you can get people to sponsor your content or your videos or your website, etc. And that way you can get a much higher price for the audience you have. Of course, this is much more difficult because you have to actually reach out to that company or have them reach out to you, back and forth with them to figure out a price, to figure out the invoicing, etc. But if you can find the right market fit, this is definitely a very interesting way to make money fairly quickly once you have an audience. Now, next up, we have selling digital products. Now, notice all of these methods require no upfront capital. This is why they're beginner friendly. Now, digital products are obviously the dream. They're 100% margin, or basically 97% margin. All we have to do is pay the payment processing fees. And then obviously it's a one-time effort and continuous income potential kind of deal. Now, the difficult part about digital products is that since their fundamentals are so good, it's very difficult to create something competitive. So therefore, I highly recommend, if you're especially new, to promote digital products as an affiliate instead of promoting your own. So that way you can learn what is required to sell a digital product. Now, if you are already an expert in something, or you're planning to build expertise in something that's very niche, which is something that we teach later in this course, you can fairly simply create a digital product, which you could either give for free to show your expertise and then sell people into a service, or you create a digital product that is so valuable that you can sell to people. We'll cover how to do this a little bit later. This is a little bit more advanced and will rely on the fundamental idea that we will cover later in this course, but digital products can be an extremely powerful way. And as I said, beginner friendly, but there's a lot more difficulty with digital products than might meet the eye. guy. As I said, to start, I highly recommend with affiliate marketing for digital products. This way, you gain the experience and the skills required to at least sell them. And then we can build our digital product based on the knowledge that we'll cover later in this video. But this is one of my favorites and it was very, very powerful. Next up, we've got print on demand. Print on demand is a form of dropshipping. Basically, print on demand is what it says on the tin. When someone orders a product, for example, a t-shirt that you would sell with a certain design, you don't have actual inventory. You don't have the t-shirt in your warehouse. What happens is someone makes that order and then either your website or a certain different platform like Etsy or Amazon, they have a t-shirt and then they print that design that someone bought and then they send that to the customer automatically. This is a very good business model to start with, especially if you're interested in e-commerce or fashion, because it's quite easy to differentiate and get started. Now, the problem with print on demand is that it is a very stepping stone type business. It's never an end game, but it's a very good place to pick up skills and make a little bit of an income. The problem with print on demand is that you're selling a very commoditized item and the margins are not very good. However, the logistics are entirely taken care of you and the product is fairly proven. All of us wear t-shirts, all of us wear hoodies, etc. So therefore that demand is there. And if you can find a design or a mission or an idea that you can put on some apparel, you might get some customers and you will learn how to promote physical products and how to promote fashion. Now notice I do not have dropshipping on this list because dropshipping is much harder than it seems, whereas print on demand is a little bit simpler, and I'll go into that in a second. Now last up, we've got mini media businesses. Examples of this would be newsletters or YouTube channels or social channels, etc., where you create your own media and you put it out there in the world. This idea sort of encompasses all of the above business models. And now I put this here as a little bit of a preparation for our recommended business model at the end of this video. But basically here, you're creating a mini media empire around a certain brand, which can be a very, very powerful tool. You can choose entirely which kind of media you use. The idea being that you create content once and then you release it out to your audience of people, and then hopefully that audience grows because you have good content. Now, this is a very important idea to grasp, as we'll cover a little bit later in this video. Now onto the 5 non-beginner friendly business models, but that are totally legit and something that you will progress towards as you gain more experience and also more capital. Now, all of these usually require a lot more startup capital and therefore they're not that beginner friendly. However, they're very, very lucrative if you do them correctly. Now, first up, we have dropshipping. So dropshipping is very much like print on demand. However, the idea applies for any product. So basically, you collect an order for a product you do not have in inventory. What you do is once you collect that order, you order it from some sort of manufacturer and then the manufacturer sends it directly to that customer. There's tons of videos all about dropshipping on the internet. The reason I have it in the non-beginner friendly business model section is that it is much more difficult than it seems and that YouTube channels make it seem. Now, in real life, dropshipping operations are basically like full-scale e-commerce stores, but it's a case of constantly testing new products and then scaling up new products. We're talking about creating marketing campaigns for 20 different products a day to try to figure out which product really fits. Another problem with dropshipping is that it's very difficult to buy ads for. No ad platforms like dropshipping because the customer experience is usually very poor. It's very common to have very long shipping times and customers that are not entirely happy, and no ad platform like this. Not Facebook, not TikTok, not YouTube, not Google, etc. So another problem with dropshipping is that you do not have control of the logistics and the customer support necessarily. However, the customer support and the responsibility lies with you. Therefore, you'll learn very, very quickly that if you figure out how to sell something, then you have to provide support for that thing, and that immediately makes that business a lot more difficult and creates problems for you in the future. Plus, finally, you do not have control over the actual product. So therefore, you can have very, very problematic reviews, and also you'll have supplier issues sooner or later. Now, next up, we have building an app or software. This is one of the best business models out there. However, it is just simply not beginner friendly, and we're going to skip this because it requires technical skills which are far beyond the scope of this course right here. One little hack here is that since apps and software is such a good business model, they're also very, very good to promote as an affiliate because the margins are so high. This is something to keep in mind as maybe something you might want to do. Next up, we have Amazon FBA businesses. So this is a little bit of a buzzword. It is technically just an e-commerce business, but you're selling via Amazon, or let's just say Amazon or any of the other platforms like Walmart or Etsy or a number of others, especially locally in some countries, you've got other marketplaces that are not Amazon. This business can be very, very interesting. However, the problem here is that it is also much more difficult than the internet makes it seem. There's a lot more competition out there, especially now. It's not like the old days where you could just throw a product up there and it would sell just because it's on Amazon. Now there's a lot of competition in basically every category, and you really need to know what you're doing with Amazon. And the profit margins are simply not there anymore because every category has a shit ton of competitors, and therefore it's definitely not beginner friendly. Also, I would try to avoid it, except if you're already running an e-commerce business and you would like to add Amazon as a sales channel, but I would not recommend a pure Amazon or marketplace strategy because this doesn't work as it does in the past. And this one is definitely marketed to you as being much, much easier than it is. So be very, very careful with this. Treat it as a sales channel, not as a business model, okay? The business model is e-commerce and the sales channel could be the marketplaces, not the other way around. Now, next up, we'll just go straight into running a full-scale e-commerce business. Now, this is one of the most wonderful business models out there. Basically, here you're creating physical products and brands and then selling them. Here you can create an immense amount of value if you figure out how to create a really good product, find an audience that really loves it, and you can sell it online with hopefully high margins and also scale that up by learning how to buy media. Now, we won't go into e-commerce in this course necessarily specifically. We will have another course for that in the future. But e-commerce is definitely a legit thing to work towards, and how e-commerce works is fairly obvious. Now, the one thing to mention about e-commerce is that it is much more difficult than it seems. There's a lot more moving parts to an e-commerce business than it seems. You have to source a product, you have to provide customer support. There's a lot of tax implications and issues. There's logistics, so figuring out logistics, 3PLs, all that. It's a very, very complex business, but the payoff can be great in the long run, and these are excellent businesses to build and sell in the future. One thing beginners will miss is that e-commerce businesses require obviously capital for inventory and for ads and for building the website and all of those basics. But what a lot of people do not consider is cash flow. Cash flow is an extremely important concept in business, and I'll explain it very, very quickly now. So basically, regarding cash flow, you need to manage that you always have money in the bank so you can pay for your expenses, and you need to make sure that you get the money in from the revenues before you pay your expenses, because otherwise you cannot pay your expenses. The big problem with e-commerce is that you need to buy inventory, which costs money, and inventory has lead time, which means you pay for inventory today and you will get that inventory maybe in 2 months, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in 5 months, depending on what kind of product it is. Now, obviously, once you have your inventory, you need to figure out how to sell it. Usually that means spending money on advertising. So that is another expense. Let's just say things go well, you get revenue. Now, when you get revenue, you don't actually immediately get revenue. Your payment processor takes that revenue and then pays you out a few days later. Some cases, maybe 7 days, some 3 days. And then some cases, it delays your money by maybe 2-3 weeks if there are security issues. So in summary, you spent a large amount of money buying all your inventory 2 months in advance, and then you keep spending money, you still have more costs, then you have to wait even more for the revenues that you got to get paid to your account so you can pay for that inventory initially. Now, this creates a lot of financial strain in a business, and therefore you need a lot more money than you think when starting an e-commerce business. Now, if things go well and you need to reorder, especially when you're reordering larger and larger amounts, this can become a very tricky thing to manage if you don't have the money to fund an e-commerce business properly. Therefore, it is not beginner friendly, even though it might seem so. So if you're interested in e-commerce, I highly recommend starting with affiliate marketing for e-commerce businesses and e-commerce products so that you can learn how to get the customers before starting all this complexity for you with starting your own e-commerce business. Now, onto the last business model, and then obviously, as I've alluded to earlier, my personal favorite. So affiliate marketing with paid traffic. Now, the difference to affiliate marketing with free traffic is obviously that you're paying for the traffic that gets you the sales. Now, this has a beautiful scalability to it, and it is my favorite business model for myself and also the favorite one to teach. Now, it has fantastic scale and is the easiest business to run because all you have to do is focus on getting customers. The core skills here being digital marketing and copywriting. This is a very simple business because everyone else takes care of all the problematic parts. You just do the very difficult job of getting customers, and therefore you can focus all of your effort into that space. You don't have to deal with customer support, sourcing products, making the products, creating ideas for the products, creating marketing materials for that product, customer support, reviews, all that stuff is done by the vendor. You just have to focus on getting traffic and converting customers, and therefore it is a very beautiful and elegant business model. The problem with it is that affiliate marketing is quite competitive, and therefore you can't promote a product indefinitely, and you at the end of the day are not the owner of the brand. So you usually can't sell an affiliate marketing campaign like, for example, you could sell an e-commerce brand or a media empire. However, affiliate marketing is still quite beginner friendly, but in conclusion, affiliate marketing is a wonderful business model, and affiliate marketing with paid traffic obviously requires a decent amount of money to pay for the traffic so that you can start making sales. The difficult thing here is that it is very difficult to get a campaign to work, and therefore you need a lot of money to test and to make more ads and to test more and to spend more money and lose money and etc., etc. But once you crack a campaign, once you figure out how to promote a product with paid traffic, then you can really scale that up and make all that money back. Now, this is why it's such a beautiful business model. However, it is much more complex than affiliate marketing with free traffic. Therefore, it is not beginner friendly, and it is something to work towards in the future once you have some money and some skills and some experience, okay? So moving on, 4 business models to avoid. I'll touch on this very quickly because this is a question I get occasionally, and I really want to do you the service of dispelling these myths and do you the favor of covering these topics to remove any doubts. So basically, let me mention that all of the business models I covered previously, they are doing something for someone. They all rely on the core fundamental aspect that you do something or you make something that someone else wants. So therefore, you're creating wealth by creating value for someone else. One common aspect about all these things I'm about to list is that there are zero-sum games, meaning for you to win, there has to be a loser. There is no winner and then a winner. So for example, if you sell an e-commerce product, you're a winner because you sold a product for a margin, and then your customer wins because they got a product that they wanted and that they like and that they can use, etc. And then with all of these examples, this is not the case. For you to win, for you to make money, someone else needs to lose money. This fundamental idea is something to avoid, and once you get this clear in your head, that what you're doing with these examples is not making any value for society. If you win, someone loses, and if you lose, someone wins. This is the underlying reason why these are all very bad ideas. And this is also why, with all of these ideas, it's very popular to teach online. However, you will very, very rarely find any students or people that actually do it for real and actually make money. These are all ideas that seem too easy and too attractive, but if you really think about it, the only ones that are making money on these ideas are the people teaching and selling the courses here and making the commissions from the different platforms. So let me just go through them quickly. So the first one would be cryptocurrency day trading. So basically buying and selling crypto within short time frames, trying to game the market. As I said, this is quite obviously a very bad idea. You can make money. You're more likely to lose money statistically. Just avoid that immediately, especially with crypto. Secondly, let's just cover any get-rich-quick schemes. So if someone promises you fast profits that are easy, stay away, okay? There's obviously something fishy here, and this is something that you can just broadly avoid. Most likely, this get-rich-quick scheme does not pass the simple test of, do you make something that people want? Usually, any get-rich-quick scheme does not pass the basic test of, are you making something people want, or are you doing something people want? Are you doing something for someone else that someone else finds valuable? Basically, every single get-rich-quick scheme does not do this. To do something someone wants usually requires effort or is usually a little bit difficult. It can't be easy. So therefore, if you smell this, avoid it immediately. And next up, speculative trends like NFTs or whatever is being hyped at the moment. Basically, where the only reason why you're going to buy it is that it is going up. This is a very common fallacy in how bubbles are created. You're buying something and you don't really know why. Your only reason you're buying it is because you think it's going to be worth more in the future. Most likely you're going to be wrong about this and you'll lose money in the long run. Plus, it does not really pass the test of make something people want. This is different, for example, to buying a business or buying real estate. People want to use services from businesses. People even want art or something to that effect. But trends that are based on the price going up is often people want it because the price is supposed to go up and not because of the thing itself. Anything that is like this, stay away from. Next up is stock market trading in the short term. So if anyone is trying to sell you day trading, stock market or indexes or whatever, buying and selling in the short term, this is also something to stay away from. Here, you're not actually investing or trying to build wealth for the long run. You're just trying to game the market and think you can outsmart the market. This is a very terrible idea. This is very provable. If you go to any broker online that is trying to push this idea, you will see at the top of the page that 76% of traders lose money or 80% of traders lose money. This is a very, very obvious sign to stay away. Investing in companies for the long run is totally legit, and this is something that you can do, but stock market trading in the short run to try to game the market and get a profit that way, first of all, will not work for you, and second of all, it's very pointless. It is also not doing something that people want or not making something that people want, therefore don't do this. And lastly, gambling or poker schemes. This is very, very obviously a bad idea. Here, you're not making something someone wants. Very obviously, for you to win, someone else needs to lose. This is a very bad idea in general, and therefore stay away from it. But this one should be quite obvious. So now that we've covered that, let me go to my recommended online business to start. As I said already, a personal brand site is the best foundation for anything you do online. Now you add on services to that, regardless if those services are a job or a small agency or you want to become a freelancer, and then you add on to that some affiliate marketing idea so you can practice your further skills. Now the beautiful thing about this is that you can take it in any direction. It builds all the fundamental skills that you will carry with you for the rest of your life, and the real hack is that it builds an audience, something that you keep for the long term regardless of what you do. You keep that personal brand forever, and it's the easiest way to get started by far. The magic about a personal brand is that it is actually easier to promote any other business with a personal brand rather than the business brand, because the personal brand immediately creates authenticity. So on day one, we're going to start your personal monopoly. Now, immediately you can think about what service or job would you target? Okay, the service is the fastest way to make some decent amount of money. What kind of niche do you have expertise in or could you work towards? When you start a business, we'll cover this in a second, you should always aim for a monopoly, not competition. And I'll go into this in a second. Here's a little bit of theory on that. Competition is for losers. You build a monopoly. If you compete, you don't win. The customer wins. If you're a monopoly, you win. So on day one, we start our personal monopolies. Now, why do we want a monopoly? Basically, it all boils down to this idea. Competition is for losers. This is an idea that's coined by Peter Thiel, one of the biggest investors in the Silicon Valley space and the author of 0 to 1. The core idea being, if you compete, you will lose. When you compete, only the customer wins. The classical example for this is the restaurant business. In any town, there's tons and tons of restaurants and options to eat, and you're competing with all other restaurants, plus you're also competing with cooking at home, plus all sorts of food solutions. And therefore, the prices are basically the same across all restaurants, and there's no real differentiation. Of course, some people go to one place versus the other, but you will see this on the business side, where the restaurant industry overall doesn't actually make money. The people that get the surplus are actually the customers. So the customers are technically the ones making money in the restaurant business because they get the food for cheap. And this happens because everyone has to compete on price. So if the restaurant next door is, for example, selling some sort of meal, doesn't matter what it is for now, and that restaurant charges $10 for a meal, you can't really get away with charging $150 for a meal for more or less the same meal. At the end of the day, you're solving the same problem. Of course, you can try to lie to yourself, and this is what a lot of restaurant owners do, where it's like, I will be the only British Italian fusion restaurant in my town. But the problem is you're not actually that unique. You're still solving that same problem for the customer. You might have a slightly different angle, but the core business is in perfect competition because you're simply solving the same problem as everyone else. So as a business, if you compete, you will lose. So how do we fix this problem? So the other side of being in competition is having a monopoly. Having a monopoly essentially means that you're the only one with the solution to a problem. Obviously, in theory, if you're the only one that solves a problem and that problem needs a solution, you can name any price you want. And therefore, obviously, all the profit goes that way. Now, in some markets, it's not really strictly a monopoly. It's very few competitors. So for example, telecommunications, those are natural monopolies or oligopolies where there's very, very few competitors. And those kinds of companies make shit tons of money. Just like oil companies or any sort of network effect companies. The same thing for social media, for example. No one wants to use the 10th or 15th best social media platform. Everyone uses the biggest one because those have network effects and therefore they're monopolies and therefore they make loads and loads of money. So these are just some examples. Now I will go into this theory a little more in a separate video, but this is basically the idea. When we build a business, we want to aim for a monopoly. So now obviously getting a monopoly is the theoretical goal, but this is incredibly difficult, or it sounds incredibly difficult. But here's a hack to it. The easiest monopoly for you to get, and one that is accessible to every single one of you, is the brand of you. So you are a unique person. You have a unique story, you have unique interests, you have unique physical capabilities or incapabilities, but particularly your interests and your life story and what you're obsessed about and what you can get excited about. This will be unique to you in a way that no one else can really replicate. And this is the idea that we're going to tap into, and this will be the foundation of what we build our business idea upon. So the steps to do this at first are to productize yourself, plus you build in your own accountability. So we're going to explain this a little more in the next few minutes, but you can ask yourself 3 questions. So something that is unique to you, if you're particularly interested in whatever it is, what service or job would you target or what niche? It could be absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be something that you think society wants. It can be something that comes to you naturally. And we'll go into this in the next slide. And then keeping that in mind, what affiliate marketing opportunities does that niche offer? So basically you need to think about what companies are there around that space that you're particularly passionate about, and do they have some sort of product? If so, there could be a nice affiliate partnership for you, and then you already have a business model. And then thirdly, what audience could you build for this person monopoly? So if you're interested in a particular topic and you are a human, logic dictates that there likely will be other humans that are interested in that particular topic. So keep these 3 questions in your head while we go through the next slides. So first, let's think about how to productize yourself and what that means. It could be a service you provide, content you create, a product you create, something that you could do that other people find valuable. So with a product or a productized service being something simply that is well-defined and replicable, this has scale and leverage built in. So therefore you can already see how a business forms. So if you have one product or a way of solving a problem, aka a productized service, you already have scale built into your solution. That is what you do when you productize. And if we consider yourself and what that means, first of all, it implies that there's no competition. There is no one out there that is exactly like you. If you just be yourself and follow your interests and execute on something that you find valuable with these core ideas in mind, that you want to create a product or a productized service which does something that society wants. At the end of the day, we are here to serve others and therefore they give us money. That is the basic of all business. You can ask yourself, what do you naturally do well? Now this will be the stuff that feels like play to you, but is work to others. Every single one of us has this thing. It could be anything. The things that we unconsciously spend 6 hours a day doing and then time flies by. These are the things that we naturally become very, very good at and what we don't consider to be our specific knowledge. Now, specific knowledge is a very interesting idea in economics, where specific knowledge will be the result of your life experiences and your knowledge that becomes unique to you and that becomes something that is valuable in the marketplace, what other people are willing to pay for. It could be specific knowledge of how to do something as a service, or it could be specific knowledge of how to make a product or how to market a particular product to a particular new angle or new niche of the marketplace. And if you follow yourself, following all these fundamentals, you'll have a natural monopoly, and then you can price based on value. So the main aspect of a monopoly versus a competition is what happens to the price of a particular product or service. In competition, the market sets the price. So if in a market there's 1,000 people offering the same exact product, they will have to compete based on price because everyone wants the business. So therefore the price goes down until the customer is not able to pay less. So therefore the customer gets the lowest possible price, and then the business end up not making any profit. However, in a monopoly, if you are the only one to service this particular need, you can set the price, and the price becomes very, very close to the actual value of whatever you're providing. So therefore you get all of the profit. So if you need to price based on competition, the customer gets much more value than what he pays for in price because the price is driven down by competition. If you are in monopoly, the customer gets value, but you get a price that is very, very close to whatever value that customer gets because you are the perceived monopoly and you are the only one that can solve this problem. And we're going to cover the idea of how to create this along the course. This will be the core idea of how to actually approach a marketplace and how to create value for yourself and for your customer. Now, a little bit on built-in accountability. This is a very important concept in business where a lot of the time businesses fail because you simply do not stick to it. You jump to something else, or you sort of half-ass it. You don't really care about it that much, and then you experiment around, and therefore things fail, of course. Now, with a personal monopoly, using your personal brand, you kind of trick yourself into sticking with it, because you build something that is your name and your identity. So this means that it is impossible to give up on it, and therefore you know this unconsciously, and therefore you know you will do a good job. You're able to take risks under your own name, and the secret is being accountable to yourself and therefore forcing yourself to do a good job. This far exceeds any of the downside risk. So the downside risk is if you fail, you fail, right? This is a high perceived risk, but what happens is if you do it with integrity, and you will do it with integrity if you do it under your personal brand. If you fail that business, your shortcomings will be forgiving. Therefore, the actual risk of downside doesn't really exist, and the potential upside of simply tricking yourself to sticking with your business and doing a very good job, this will give you an edge over most people. So if you're willing to be accountable, which a lot of people aren't in business, and you simply stick to it, do the basics, and you do them well, you will have a massive edge over most people. A big secret in business is that you don't really need to do anything fancy. You need to understand the basics. You need to figure out how to do one thing well. You need to follow your specific knowledge, create your own personal monopoly, and that is enough to make millions and millions of dollars. So to sum up, as I quickly alluded to earlier, competition versus monopoly. So if you're in competition, if you compete with the marketplace, if you offer the same thing as the next guy or the same product or the same service as thousands of other businesses in no real differentiation. This is a very, very tricky concept to grasp because a lot of people, we lie to ourselves as to how differentiated our product or service is. For example, that restaurant example, if you're the only Italian, Peruvian, Mexican fusion restaurant, you might be the only one in that town. However, you're not actually differentiating. You're not solving a different problem for that same audience. So this is a very tricky one to understand if you are not in competition, but at least in theory, we should always aim for monopoly. Now in competition, as I mentioned, and I explained why, there are no profits or small profits. In any industry with perfect competition, you will see the businesses make very, very little profits. And this is very consistent across all industries which are perfectly competitive. Another tricky aspect of understanding this is that both businesses in competition and in monopoly, they could achieve any scale. So some of the biggest businesses in the world in terms of sales, they are actually in perfect competition. But you will see they do not actually make that much profit because they have to price based on competition and not based on the value they provide. An example of this would be retail giants. They make huge amounts of sales, but they only make a fairly small percentage in terms of profits. The example here would be Walmart. They make a couple of percentage points in profit. Now, monopoly, on the other hand, could also achieve any scale. So the ultimate example is Google. So everyone uses Google to search for stuff, and therefore Google search makes incredible margins. Although total amount of money generated versus, for example, Walmart is much, much less, Google makes all the profit because it is the only one serving those needs, and therefore it can price based on value and not on competition. So I want you to get this very, very basic idea into your head. This will be very, very difficult to do, and it will make sense further down the line. And that is why it's important to have this lecture and have this lesson now at the beginning of the course, because I want to plant this seed in your head that you can achieve monopoly, and the reasons why you will want to achieve monopoly we recently covered. You can achieve that monopoly based on you, your particular unique set of interests, your story, and therefore your specific knowledge that no one else will have, and the specific kind of product or service and solution to a marketplace that you could uniquely come up with. So now that we've covered what business we want to start and how to think about approaching our business models, and in the next lesson and in the next module, we will learn about WordPress and we'll start building our website for real. See you there.